Hi all, welcome to this week's edition of 411 on 911. I'm Dana and I'm sitting here with Becca.
Hi!
Today we're going to be discussing transients and the homelessness in Sacramento City, which is actually very good timing because a report came out, I don't know if you're aware of this, last week I think it was, that the population for transients homelessness has gone up 30% in Sacramento City since 2015, which is a large number.
Yeah, that's, 2 years for it to go up that high. It's a big deal for the police department because it obviously increases a lot of calls for us and a lot of different things that we end up doing that are transient related.
Yeah, it's a very hot topic right now, so I think it's a good thing that we're talking about it now, so let's just get right into it with the whole 911. SPD does have a lot of transient calls, right?
Yes, we have a lot. On any given weekday, we usually have around 60 to 65 calls related to transients alone, and that's everything from, hey, there's somebody sleeping on the street corner, to there's somebody sleeping on my front porch. They're all through the city and for all different kinds of reasons.
I know when I first started, which was long time ago, we maybe had 2 or 3, at least I would only take 2 or 3 transient calls per like half my shift, but now, no exaggeration, I'm probably taking somewhere in the vicinity of 40 to 50 calls just in a 5-hour block, so it has tremendously gone up. Should I call 911 for a transient?
It depends on what they're doing, just like anybody else, like your neighbor, like your brother, your sister, your co-workers. If it is an emergency, if somebody's life is in danger, if it's a serious crime in progress, like we've said before, 911. If it's somebody that's sleeping on your front porch or on a street corner and not harming anybody, yes, we want them to move along probably, but that's going to be non-emergency.
Okay, so like if they're sleeping in a parking lot next to a garbage bin, business owner gets to work in the morning, they're not harassing anyone or doing anything, that would be non-emergency?
Absolutely.
Yeah, what's that number?
808-5471.
Okay, if they're going through that same like garbage bin and they're like making a mess, what I call 911?
It's still non-emergency. It's completely inconvenient. We understand that, and we will enter in a call for service for somebody to come out and send that person on their way. One note to things like that, because we do get a lot of calls about transients either throwing trash around or going through dumpsters. The officers are not actually going to clean up that trash. That's something that the city operator is going to be in charge of with 311. So just keep that in mind. We will enter in a call for service, but the officers are probably just going to deal with the person, and then they'll have to answer other calls for service.
Would they clean up the trash if it was a resident calling and the transient's going through all the trash and making a mess there? Would the officer then pick that trash up?
It depends on the situation. If it's your private property, the officer's not just going to leave you hanging with a messed up property. So they're either going to try and get you some help or get a city crew out there, or they're going to help you clean it up a little bit if they can.
Okay, so it really just all depends. When would be an appropriate time to call 911 for a transient?
Like I said earlier, anytime you would call for anybody else. If somebody has a weapon or they're threatening somebody's immediate safety, or it's any crime that you would call 911 for is something that if a transient's involved, that's when you call 911. Otherwise, we have to treat it all just like a non-emergency situation if it's, again, just something that's an inconvenience or makes you uncomfortable, but isn't necessarily a 911 call.
So we get a lot of calls where they're in the middle of the street and they're screaming and they're causing a traffic jam, like 12th and I, for example. We get calls all the time, or like right in front of a Starbucks or something, just smack dab in the middle of the street doing whatever they're doing. That to me might be an emergency because they're blocking traffic. They could get hit by a car and get injured. We don't want that, so would that be okay to call 911?
Absolutely, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Again, just like anybody else. If I was out in the middle of the street, I hope somebody would call 911 for me. So if they're...
I wouldn't. Teasing.
Thanks. So, it's their life at this point that's in danger. So absolutely, it's a 911 call.
Okay, that makes sense. So as we've discussed, we have a very large transient population here, and the city seems to be growing and growing and growing. We are not, unfortunately, not yet.
We're trying.
Yes, we're still trying to hire, by the way. Anything that you think the public could do to help curb this problem and help with it?
The best thing that you guys can do is continue to call us, honestly, because if you don't call, we're not, yes, we're going to know about it, but we're not going to know how drastic the situation is. It counts into our statistics, it counts into things that come into play with budgets and officers and all kinds of different things. So the best thing that the city can do to help us is to continue to call, whether it's non-emergency or 911, depending on the situation. It's going to help things in the long run. It's kind of the biggest point.
Hopefully that has helped you guys today. If you had any questions, if you do have any questions, definitely put them in our comments, and one of us or someone will get back to you as soon as possible. And I believe next week we are talking about squatters in businesses that have been closed down, in residences that are foreclosed on, etc. And I believe we have Karen talking with us, right?
Yeah.